The San Francisco Shock are ready to start making some big time changes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to a quick Overwatch League news video. Unfortunately, I just missed the cut on this one with my previous news recap, but the San Francisco Shock have parted ways with 7 players, and this seems like it's worthy of its own video as a result. So yeah, the Shock have parted ways with Smurf, Ans, Twilight, Tayo, Nero, Glister, and FD God. We're talking almost an entire support line besides Violet, a whole DPS line, and a key main tank player. That's a lot of firepower that has essentially gone down the drain. But when you think about it from a logical perspective, a lot of these moves were warranted and they were kind of expected by a lot of the fan base, I would say. A lot of these seemed like they were kind of on the horizon, especially with guys like Ons and Smurf and Twilight and Glister. They all kind of already declared for free agency previously, so it's not too big of a shocker, no pun intended there. Then someone like Tayo, I'd say that most people thought he'd be gone by now anyway, considering he was always on the bench, and he was pretty much only there to be a Genji specialist back in the day, and then after that he had served his purpose. He was there to maybe be a guy who could develop into something, but it didn't pan out into what the coaches hoped he would. As for Nero, up until today, I think a lot of people kind of anticipated that Nero would be gone because for a while, he kind of hinted at potentially moving over to coaching or retiring as a player because Overwatch 2 didn't really impress him all that much. But now today, supposedly, he's willing to still be a player. He did some thinking about it and he still wants to keep going. And apparently he already has a new opportunity. I guess we'll find out what that is soon enough, huh? Now for FD God. This is one that also makes sense to me. At the start of this year, a lot of people, including myself, were very psyched to see what FD God could do on a really strong team like San Francisco. He was just coming off like a top 5 main support caliber year on Paris, so there was reason to believe that he'd be a very strong addition to this team to replace Moth. But as it turns out, that just wasn't the case. His style of play made the San Francisco Shock too unbalanced. Moth provided balance and stability with that support line to counteract Violet and Twilight, these really aggressive playmakers. With somebody like FD God, that's what he likes to do too, so it kind of made the Shock a little vulnerable. And on top of that, FD God just was not getting the job done on other characters not named Lucio, so as a result, we saw him go to the bench. The guy that's supposed to be playing main support heroes like Brig and Mercy was on the bench, while Violet and Twilight, these guys who are supposed to be playmaking, were kind of wasting their talents on that role instead, and we saw how it affected the Shock. It was not a great thing. So in all honesty, this was probably for the best. FD God has a ton of potential, but in the Shock system, he just didn't work out the way a lot of people foresaw it. So now we are in this situation where the Shock and their fans have to say goodbye to a couple more of their former championship players. That being Twilight, Ans for a second time, I guess you could say, and Smurf, and technically Tayo, but I mean, come on, Tayo didn't even play or anything. The departures that hurt this team the most, in my opinion, are Twilight for those times where they wanted to play double flex support or have the best Ana in the game on their team. Then you have Smurf for his reliable Winston and Orisa over the years, and Ans for his insane playmaking and mechanics. That's what hurts, right? You're losing a bit of your playmaking potential and versatility and roster depth. But overall, more moves than not that they made don't hurt them that much and were probably the correct thing to do. There's not much they can do about some of these guys declaring free agency and everything like Smurf. I'm sure they would have liked to maybe bring him back among others, but they didn't really have control. Now a lot of elite talent is heading into free agency. I've kind of talked about it in the other video I just made, but somebody like Ans or Smurf or Glister and Twilight, they're all going to have a good shot at finding new homes because of their incredibly high potential. So long as they're still motivated to play, I am guaranteeing you that they'll find a new home or at the very least get a bunch of different tryouts and opportunities. A couple of teams out there might be able to make a game-changing signing by getting one of these guys. Think about like the Gladiators. I discussed this in the previous video earlier today, but what if Smurf went to like the LA Gladiators? That would be insane. Or what about maybe like the Seoul Dynasty? Think about all the places where Twilight can go, the Washington Justice, Seoul, etc., etc. There's so much potential. Heck, even FD God might find a new home if he doesn't retire, because I'm sure a team like the Paris Eternal might be interested. I know they just re-signed Dridro, but it wouldn't hurt to also have somebody of his caliber on their team. He can maybe go to the London Spitfire. A lot of these guys have options, so I'm not overly concerned about them. I'm scared for Shock fans and how bad they're going to feel over this, but for the players' sake, all of the guys who are like somewhat decent, who have a great chance, I'm not worried about. Let me know what theories theories you have about some of these free agents and where they might sign down in the comments below. We're going to find out soon enough because free agency literally starts like tomorrow, basically, so get hyped about that. In the meantime, let's think about this from the San Francisco Shock's perspective a little more. So if we look at their roster and what's left, at least for the time being, they're Super, Choyobin, and Violet. That is their core that they're looking to build around heading into Overwatch 2 if everything stays the way it is right now. It's not too shabby. You still have a tank line intact that you can use. You can have Super play your Winston and your Rhines and your Rissas or whatever, and then Choi plays everything else. You're good there. Then with Violet, I mean, he's a beast. He's one of the best flex supports in the world. You're great there. They have half of a team, but they need more. They need a whole DPS line and a main support. DPS is the spot that very much intrigues me because there really aren't that many veterans out there who are declaring for free agency, I feel like. I mean, there are some, but it's not as crazy stacked as it has been in years past, let's say. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say that the Shock probably have some interest in maybe trading for Yaki because Florida are looking to shop him currently, or maybe they could get his DPS partner BQB, who's also a free agent. That could be a nice pickup. Then maybe you could go with Exy if like the Shock become an APAC team next year, let's say. That's a possibility. I really don't know what they want to do if they're going for some of those like home run superstar veterans because there really aren't that many currently where we stand. I would not be surprised if they're looking towards some of those younger players, if they're willing to become a younger team again. They've had veterans for all of these years, but maybe now is the time as we head into a new game to kind of start over, hit the reset button, and have young talent again like they did at the start of their era. You hold on to like Super and Choi and Violet, and you have them be the veteran guidance of the team and some of your most reliable playmakers, but then you bring on some really talented young guys from all sorts of different regions. Maybe they're looking towards Korea, perhaps Proper, somebody they have in their sights. And what about some of these American contenders players like Hydron and Speedily and whatnot? I know they didn't win the championship or anything this year, but the Shock are still a well-respected org with one of the best coaches in the game and some of the greatest players in the game still, so I'm sure they're going to draw interest from a lot of different players. A young player would love to start their career with the Shock, I feel like. Main support, I feel like, could be a little bit easier because there are a bunch of different options out there. Some of these guys haven't been confirmed to leave just yet, but Masa's available. You could go for Funny Astro, maybe. There's also a possibility if you really want to risk it and going with Jexay. The options are definitely there at main support. The changes going on within the Shock this year kind of blow everything that happened last year out of the water, like Striker retiring and Moth going away. That's nothing compared to what they're doing right now, because we're kind of seeing the torch get passed in a way, as we only have 3 veterans left from that original championship team. Can the Shock lure in some good free agents and have a better system compared to last year? Are they going to stay consistent? Are they going to compete for another championship? Is this the end of an era officially? Are they not going to be competitive? There's so many different thoughts going through my mind right now, and I'm just super excited to see what the Shock do from here. They're probably one of the biggest points of interest for me during this free agency. What's unfortunate though is we have no idea how long it's going to take before them and a lot of other teams start making major moves, because you kind of get the feeling that the coaches and management and ownership and whatnot are really going to want to just see what Overwatch 2 is about truly and get a good idea before they start constructing their rosters. The only thing we can do now, as always, is wait. But until then, guys, that's going to do it for this news video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new if you want to keep up with all things Overwatch League news related. And feel free to let me know how you're feeling about the Shock news down in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.